We've been hearing about death, about guesswork, about passages and phases whose farther end is hidden from our sight. And things may be a chance happening or a fortuitous fate. One sentence: a chance happening or a fortuitous fate, a lucky fate, almost an accidental fate. Out of the unknown, we move to the unknown. Another full stop. So we see that we are now living in the unknown, because what do we know? What do we know about this earth? What do we know about the people of this earth? What do we know what's going to happen tomorrow or next week or next month? Out of the unknown, we move to the unknown. And then he's going to tell us, ever surround our brief existence here gray shadows of unanswered questionings. And that's what we have. We have gray shadows. We don't see the light, capital L. We don't see the truth, capital T. And then he has a semicolon there. And he says, the dark inconscience, signless mysteries. Now, I have read to you some things previously of the inconscient, so we'll do something a little different tonight. From the essays in philosophy and yoga. The body, we have said, is a creation of the inconscience. The body, we have said, is a creation of the inconscient, and itself inconscient, or at least subconscient in parts of itself, and much of its hidden action. But what we call the inconscient is an appearance, a dwelling place, an instrument of a secret consciousness, or a superconscient which has created the miracle we call the universe. And briefly from the Life Divine. The inconscient is asleep, or a prison. The conscient, a round of strivings without ultimate issue, or the wanderings of a dream. We must wake into the superconscious, where all darkness of night and half-lights cease in the self-luminous bliss of the eternal. And in one of his letters on Savitri to Amal Kiran, he writes, men have not learnt yet to recognize the inconscient on which the whole material world they see is built. Extraordinary statement, huh? The whole material world, our material world, is built on the inconscient, or the ignorance, of which their whole nature, including their knowledge, is built. They think that these words are only abstract metaphysical jargon flung about by philosophers in their clouds, or labored out in long and wearisome books like the Life Divine. His humor is so special, huh? It's of course very British, isn't it? But it hits a point in us. So long and wearisome books like the Life Divine. Okay, we'll continue on now. There's still so much more that we could read. So what happens now? We see that the dark, inconscious, signless mysteries. Now, the dark inconscient does have these signless mysteries. And we see that they stand up unsolved behind fate's starting line. If fate is the starting line, then we have a lot to do. All of those previous births of ours, fate is the starting line. Okay, we'll carry on. And this wonderful line, an aspiration in the night's profound. Oh. He also has, I believe it's an assignation with the night in one of his great poems. Last Friday, we had about, 15 or 20 people at Holger's house, and he played the music to my readings of Sri Aurobindo's poetry. So we are probably going to have it for all of Auroville eventually. Still some brushing up to do, but he's a wonderful soul, and he brings different musicians, fine musicians like Nada Prem, and they play the duduk and other unique instruments that he weaves into his compositions. So we will invite you all. I believe A God's Labor is already on our Mother and Sri Aurobindo channel. But he's done 16 already. And the next big thing, if I can keep this body going, I will do Urvasi, a fairly long poem of Sri Aurobindo. Beautiful poem. An aspiration in the night's profound, seed of a perishing body and half-lit mind, uplifts its lonely tongue of conscious fire towards an undying light forever lost. Perishing body, no question. Half-lit mind, no question. But uplifts its lonely tongue of conscious fire. That is the Agni. That is in us as a spark or a small flame on a pedestal or stone, and it grows with the psychic being. Uplifts its lonely tongue of conscious fire towards an undying light forever lost. And I know I've read to many of you these quotes on light, but there are some new people, so I will read it again. From the Life Divine. Light is primarily a spiritual manifestation of the divine reality, illuminative and creative. Material light is a subsequent representation or conversion of it into matter for the purposes of the material energy. So the sun that we see is not the real sun. It's a reflection of the sun far beyond our consciousness. And that's what lights this sun. So when the scientists say that this sun is going to burn up in so many hundreds of years, it's all nonsense. Don't listen to it. Now, one of my favorite quotes. Our sense, by its incapacity, has invented darkness. In truth, there is nothing but light, only it is a power of light either above or below our poor human vision's limited range. For do not imagine that light is created by the suns. The suns are only physical concentrations of light, but the splendor they concentrate for us is self-born and everywhere. God is everywhere, and wherever God is, there is light. And I've read this before too. The mother to my friend Dmitri von Mohrenschildt. The light is everywhere. The force is everywhere. And the world is so small. Only it hears, sole echo of its call, the dim reply in man's unknowing heart, and meets, not understanding why it came, or for what reason is the suffering here, God's sanction to the paradox of life, and the riddle of the immortal's birth in time. So we have to go a little slowly through this. We do reply dimly in our unknowing hearts, and we meet God's sanction to the paradox of life. We don't understand why it came. We don't know what the reason is for suffering here. But this paradox, this statement or proposition that seems self-contradictory or absurd, but in reality expresses a possible truth. We have to remember that because Savitri is filled with paradoxes. And the riddle of the immortal's birth in time. This is the answer that is given in all ages to all people. It may be the 10 avatars of the Indian legend. It may be just the ones that we remember most: Rama, Christ, Krishna, Sri Aurobindo Mother. Along a path of eons serpentine, eons, ages of the universe. Serpentine, it's similar to a serpent's movement. Okay? So nothing is ever straight in this yoga. And we have to really understand that. Because there are always ups and downs. There are always things that we have to confront that we didn't know were there. So much to do. In the coiled blackness of her nescient course. So there's a coiled blackness of the creatrix nescient course. And what is that nescience? It's the absence of knowledge or awareness. It's ignorance. And in the Life Divine, Sri Aurobindo puts it so simply. Nescience in nature is the complete self-ignorance. So in this coiled blackness of nature, who is, we can say, the divine creatrix in a reduced power, the earth goddess toils across the sands of time. Of course, Sri Aurobindo tells us in the Life Divine, the faith in the divine Shakti must be always at the back of our strength, and when she becomes manifest, it must be or grow implicit and complete. There is nothing that is impossible to her, who is the conscious power and universal goddess, all creative from eternity and armed with the Spirit's omnipotence. So now we're going to hear a little bit about the earth goddess, who is toiling. Toiling is not so easy to do. She's not just walking or trotting or stepping across the sands of time. She's toiling across them. And a being is in her, whom she hopes to know. A word speaks to her heart she cannot hear. A fate compels whose form she cannot see. Look how he structures these three lines. First, he begins with a. So we have a being, then we have a word, and finally we have a fate. So a being is in her who is the Purusha. A word speaks to her heart she cannot hear. A fate compels, very strong, whose form she cannot see. And therefore we see that nature is experimenting constantly. They say that, and you folks who are Indian will know much better, that construction and destruction occur at the same time. And tell us the gods, the three gods who are in charge.
Shiva for destruction.
Shiva for destruction.
Brahma for creation.
Brahma for creation.
And
Vishnu
for preservation.
to hold it together. Yes, thank you. In her unconscious orbit through the void, we have to know a little bit about what the void is, because it's not what we think it is. Sri Aurobindo tells us many things about the void, and I'll just read a couple of short ones from his letters on yoga. The void is the condition of the self, free, wide, and silent. It seems void to the mind, but in reality, it is simply a state of pure existence and consciousness, sat and chit with shanti. Interesting. Ananda doesn't come in here yet, huh? By void is meant emptiness, clear of all contents, except existence, pure and simple. Without that, one cannot realize the silent Brahman. You know that he, when he met Lele, and most people think it was 3 days till he had the silent mind. He had it the first day. But he saw things in that, and his way was to stop the thoughts as they were descending into him. I believe I told you what Temi's way was. Anyone remember? She said, they come in as they like and they go out, and I pay no attention to them. So that's another way it can be done. Now, we have to go back to our lines here. In her unconscious orbit, of course it's an orbit, and it's through the void, out of her mindless depths, she strives to rise. A perilous life her gain, a struggling joy, a thought that can conceive but hardly knows. Wow. We'll go through each line. Arises slowly in her and creates the idea, the speech that labels more than it lights. Actually, I should read that a little differently because there's a semicolon there. The idea, the speech that labels more than it lights. A trembling gladness that is less than bliss invades from all this beauty that must die. Complex, but we'll go through it. Okay. Out of her mindless depths. So nature doesn't have a mind as such in her creative capacity. She's playing a game. She's experimenting. Get rid of this because it's useless. Try this. And when Mother met nature, anybody remember what happened?
She agreed to collaborate.
Nature agreed to collaborate with Mother. This is why, flower lover, we are seeing more and more beautiful flowers now than we have ever seen before. Last night, Tuesday night after the Om Choir, this very vigorous lady, Doris, some of you may know Doris, asked me to come and see what she was doing. And it was extraordinary. She has turned unity around. Flowers everywhere, beauty everywhere. She gave me a leaf of something and she said, this one is called 4 Spices. I couldn't stop inhaling it. And Kartik told her it wouldn't grow here. She has so many plants that they say will not grow here. They're growing for her. We call that a green thumb in America. Maybe you may have the same name here. But yeah. Out of her mindless depths she strives to rise. A perilous life her gain. Why is it a perilous life? Because it's a dangerous life. You know, I just saw a movie about this young man who was with a team attempting to go to the Olympics. And he's on his motorcycle and he crashes and he shatters his leg. And they have to put a metal rod in his leg. And his teacher and his doctor said, "You'll be grateful if you can walk again." And he started exercising, and in the end, he won the medal on the rings. When I mentioned this, Leonid, who often comes here, Ukrainian boy, said, "Yes, I've seen the movie and I've read the book, and the book is much better," which I would believe.
What's the name of it?
I don't remember, but I can get it for you. A perilous life her gain, a struggling joy. Because Ananda is not yet established here. Sri Aurobindo says it is the reason for creation. Bliss is the reason for creation. A thought, capital T, that can conceive but hardly knows. So this thought is an arrow shot at the truth, and it can hit a point but not cover the whole target. And then Sri Aurobindo, with his humor again, says, but the archer is too well satisfied with his success to ask anything farther. In the essays in philosophy and yoga, he says, all living thought is a world in preparation. All real act is a thought manifested. And I remember Vivekananda's words, be careful what you think. Thought has power. This should be man's unshakable faith in himself, because God dwells in him. So we have the idea that arises in her, but the idea here is lowercase, not capitalized. It's not the real idea. It's not the supramental. It's just the idea that arises in thought, creating a speech that labels more than it lights. How beautiful. A trembling gladness that is less than bliss invades from all this beauty that must die. And I think we'll end there because that's about my time. To invade here, to invade is not to enter forcefully like an enemy or with any hostile intent, but it is to permeate, to penetrate, to spread into or over. Now, I'm just going to tell you, because I have a minute left, that I received a book the other day, very small little book, written by Nolini, and it's on Savitri. And when we get into book 2, The World's Stare, I'll read you what he has said. It's marvelous, so brilliant. Would anyone like to say anything? before we have someone read?
Yeah, I want to ask something.
Sure.
There is, we read towards an undying light, forever lost. What is forever lost?
Do you see the light every day, every moment? Do you? Me neither. It seems to be forever lost, but it's not.
Unanswered questionings, the dark inconscience, signless mysteries, stand up unsolved behind fate's starting line. An aspiration in the night's profound, sealed up a perishing body and half-lit mind, uplifts its lonely tongue of conscious fire towards an undying light forever lost. Only it hears, sole echo of its call, the dim reply in man's unknowing heart, and meets not understanding why it came, or for what reason is the suffering here, God's sanction to the paradox of life, and the riddle of the immortal's birth in time. Along a path of aeons serpentine, in the coiled gladness of her ancient force, the earth goddess toils across the sands of time. A being is in her whom she hopes to know. A word speaks to her heart she cannot hear. A fate compels whose form she cannot see. In her unconscious orbit through the void, out of her mindless depths she strives to rise. A perilous life her gain, a struggling jaw, a thought that can conceive but hardly knows, arises slowly in her and creates the idea, the speech that labels more than it likes, a trembling gladness that is less than bliss, invades from all this beauty that must die.